Welcome, everybody, to this week's podcast episode for the Financial Freedom for Physicians podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Liu. And as you know, I talk about the four pillars of freedom: financial, time, location, and health freedom. And in that light, in this podcast, which is growing, I bring on entrepreneurs, investors, business owners, marketing experts to inspire you, educate you. And so today we have Donna Cravotta, and she is a marketing strategist and storyteller. She is the CEO and founder of Cravotta Media Group, and she helps entrepreneurs cover their assets with story-driven speaker reels, book reels, and more. So today it's all going to be about marketing, strategy, being a creative entrepreneur. So Donna, welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I know we had connected through Podmatch, and you have a really interesting bio. I think your experience and expertise would help my audience, which is physicians and other high income earners looking to make the transition out of the traditional 9 to 5. So tell us more about yourself, and we'll get started.
Well, I started with the traditional 9 to 5. I worked in global law firms for over 25 years. And I was a project manager going between the marketing and the finance department. So my role was to, do all of the due diligence to roll out the financial applications through, this enormous law firm with, hundreds and hundreds of attorneys. And when I worked on the media side, I was responsible for 250 partner media kits and interfacing with the media on various different things that were going on in the firm. And I got to travel all over the world, which was great. And then I had a child. And then it wasn't so great anymore. I was a single parent with a very, very young child. And I started to think that this was no longer a long-term solution. So this was in 2005, 2006 timeframe, and I started to see virtual businesses popping up. And I was actually working virtually because after I had my son, I implemented their virtual training environment because they came to me with go to Asia for a month and train all of our staff on whatever it is they wanted me to train them on. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that. Let's do this virtually. And I had to convince them that it was a great idea. And I built out their whole virtual training environment that they're still using all these years later. And then I started to think, well, if this big company needs this and I have to convince them every time that they need this, there's probably small business owners that need help too. And I won't have to convince them that they need it. So I did it. And I really just took the leap. I had some money saved from real estate and I just took a chance on me. And I haven't looked back. It's been November will be 16 years. And my business has taken twists and turns and ups and downs through the years, as they all do. But I learned to kind of shed that cloak of perceived safety that these jobs provide to you, and realized that I was actually safer being able to make my own decisions. And I just pivoted my business again a few months ago. For years, I've had a marketing agency, and it just kept growing and bloating and getting bigger and bigger. And I was at the point where I had clients that were, off, getting off of my roster, and then I had new clients waiting to get on. And I realized I'd have to kind of reposition the team and hire all of these people. And I just didn't want to do it. I wanted a simpler way. And I was just coming off of having a health issue, a global pandemic, and my son going off to college. And I just wanted to find an easier way to live so I could travel, not work so hard, not be responsible for so many people. So I kind of went through everything I was doing, eliminated all the things I didn't want to do, and realized that every single client that I worked with never had the marketing assets that they needed to tell their stories. We would come up with these strategies and then, they had nothing. So then I had to build all of everything else. So I started to think maybe this is a way to go because everybody needs it. And it's been amazing. I've been doing it for like 6 months now and everybody loves it. The primary product that we're creating are little story driven videos that tell their story. And it's been so interesting to see the reaction. I mean, the confidence is up leveled. They don't have to tell their story over and over again. They get to see their story through somebody else's eyes. And they're like, I mean, that moment where go from delivering the draft to delivering the final product with their narrative and the music in the background and the pictures of all of the things that they've done. I mean, they cry, and it's just incredibly rewarding and fun,
Yeah.
and the easiest thing I've ever done.
That's it's so interesting when you make the transition to, self-employment and business owner, eventually investor, entrepreneur. What's interesting is, you have I like to talk about overarching themes, and you have, first one is your story is the heart of your business.
What I noticed, throughout the years is that even when I was back working in the law firms, people leave out parts when they tell you, like when you ask them for the different things that you need to be able to create a marketing plan for them or to create some kind of strategy. And they leave out parts, and for two reasons mainly. One, they don't think anybody's going to care about it. Two, they forgot about it because everybody's on to the next thing. They're not realizing that everything that they've done up to this point is what created who they are now. And that's the story that's going to interest people. That's where your heart is. Because when you're scrappy and you're starting out, you're going to do the things that you care about. And that's before all of the responsibilities come rolling in, right? So those things that you did early on are the things that you're really passionate about. And when you leave that out of your business, you're leaving out the heart of your business. When you share it, that's the part that people connect with. And the golden ticket is you want people to come back, right? You want them to come find you wherever they find you and then come back. And if you're not sharing your heart, they're never coming back. And when they don't come back, the first time they leave, if they don't come back, they never come back. And it's amazing what happens, how you see people kind of unfold right before your eyes when they see the parts put together in a way that they never put them together. It's like because everything, it's all of your internal voices and your angst and your, oh, that didn't work, or this didn't work, and oh, I suck, when you can pull all of that out of the story and just tell the story and show that to somebody when it's their actual story, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
So rewarding.
Yeah. It's all about, in your personal brand, it's all about connecting and who stories you resonate with, who you resonate with, which is really completely opposite of, how we're trained to think. And what's also interesting is, what I found interesting was quietly making a difference, because most people are, loud and, social media. What do you mean? This is interesting. Quietly making a difference.
So I've always taken a different approach to social media, and I've been doing social media since like 2008. So, way, way early on. Like I used to use Hootsuite to manage my social media, and I was in the first 100 people that used Hootsuite. So I've been around a while. And I always took a different approach. I always started with listening, because everybody goes to be as loud as they could be, to broadcast, to push out, and people don't respond to that. So I always took the approach of, okay, who do I want to connect with? Why do I want to connect with them? What can I do for them? And what's the impact that that's going to have? And you start with listening. And for years, I've been saying that listening is the most underutilized social media strategy that there is. So when you listen first and you hear not only their pain points, because that's another misconception with marketing, is like you go after their pain points and you're the solution. I don't want to work with people that are in pain all the time. Because then they're actively looking to stay in pain. I want to work with people that are looking for a solution so they're no longer in pain. So I look to see what they care about. What are their values? What matters to them? Because when you can speak to people that have similar interests, that care about the same things, that the same things matter to you, you can have a more genuine conversation. And I've always treated social media as a place to have conversations, as a place to gather around a hashtag, which is like a campfire, and tell your stories, because stories have been around since the beginning of time. This is how people communicated. And one of the things that Brene Brown says is that we're wired for story. So you mentioned earlier how we're trained to think. This is going beyond being trained. This is going deeper than that. This is how we are wired. And when you can share your message from the base of how we're wired, people feel that. They don't just hear it, they feel it, and then they emotionally react to it. And when that happens, that's how you build a relationship. And when you build a relationship, it's not about the sale. It's about like how can we help each other and how can I help your audience? Whenever I'm on a podcast, it's all about what I can do for your audience. And when you come from that perspective, everything is different because you don't need as much.
Mhm.
You don't need to have a zillion people following you. You can do really well with a couple hundred because everybody cares about the same thing.
Once I realized that you could get to 1 million followers and then these platforms could shut you down, I started
Mhm.
to start doing my own thing and not invest so much time because they can take it away from you at any time. So
And that was part of my decision to change my business too, because I really don't like the way social media is going, and I don't want to spend a lot of time doing it. I want to build relationships, and there's all different ways that that can be done. So the name of my business used to be Social Pivot PR because I did this combination of social media PR and content development, and I don't want to do that anymore. I changed my business to my name, and this is what I'm doing. I show up, I tell stories, I share stories, I create the stories for other people, and that's what my marketing is I'm sharing the stories of the people that are my clients, and it's just very organic and feels good.
it feels good, and what resonates with you. That's the key driver. The other question I had is, what impact has the story-driven marketing assets had on your clients?
Oh my goodness. Well, first of all, they have a totally different level of confidence. And like one client, her husband had a liver transplant. So he really has to be careful about getting COVID. So they basically have not left the house in, 2.5 years. And, she's been a speaker for years. So as like the world was coming back, she was viewing being a virtual speaker as a negative. And I said, no, we're going to build that right into your story. So now that's turned into a positive. So
Mhm.
now her husband got excited about this. He's working in her business and they just celebrated their 38th anniversary. They like this was part of what they celebrated is, instead of him having a medical issue that is holding her back, his medical issue is part of their story and she's getting opportunities through that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. It just reminds me how powerful story can be in building your personal brand and
Yeah.
marketing. The other question I had is, you mentioned redesigning your business from, an back to your own personal name and your own
Mhm.
personal brand. What led you to do that, and what did you get out of that?
I was known for social media, for PR, for SEO, for content development, like big, collaborative strategies of all of these moving parts. And I've worked with, small self-published authors all the way up to big nonprofits with, you know, 250, 300 employees. And I just didn't want to do it anymore.
Mm.
I was at that point where, my client base was moving around. Some clients were offboarding and some were waiting to come in. And I walked away from a lot of work. I said, I just don't want to do it. I'm going to change my whole business. My son went off to college. So for, as a solo parent for the first time, I had some freedom in a very long time.
Uh,
So last September, I spent a month in Costa Rica. I'm going to be spending a month in Europe in the spring. I'm going away on Thursday. I'm going someplace else in 3 weeks, and this is how I want to travel. I've got a virtual business. I could be anywhere, and I couldn't do that, with a big team and high pressure, and I was working like 15 hours a day. I don't want to work that hard anymore. I
yeah.
did that in law firm land, and I just never realized like it was really interesting because this is just one little thing of all the things that I did. When it came up as an option, I was like, I just can't make little pretty things in Canva. I mean, I do all these other things, and I went back to a quote that I heard Greg McEwen say from the stage like 10 years ago. you can do anything, but you don't have to do everything.
Wonderful.
And that became my mantra. And everything that I create for clients now, I create it in Canva, which is a $12 design tool, $12 a month design tool, and I empower them. So I create these assets for them. They could repurpose them, they can turn them into other things. Everything carries their brand, carries their messaging. So I had one client take the design that we used for her videos, and she up-leveled all of her 3 speaking presentations. And she said that would have cost me thousands of dollars. And I was able to do this in a $12 tool. And then she created social media posts for all of them. And everything had the same look and feel. And, that builds trust when you go from place to place to place and everything has the same look and feel. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, the same. And even when I create these videos, I don't want them to be perfect. I want them to be real. And, you know, she would have had to hire people to do this. She would have to hire people to update things, and she doesn't have to do that now. So
Mm.
it saved her money, it's empowered her, and a confidence level. And back to, I don't think I fully answered the question about quietly making a difference. I've always tried to empower people to not be the loudest one in the room. Like, listen to your audience, figure out what they need, show up in the right place, and quietly say something, and you'll get their attention. You'll go above the noise, below the noise, to the side of the noise, but they'll hear you. And what I realized when I started to do this is I had a client who was an introvert and she's neurodivergent. And she said, "This is the greatest gift that I've ever received in my business because I don't have to tell my story ever again." She goes, "I just need to send them this video." And then she had me create a second video for her program. She's a business therapist and she helps people not bring their childhood trauma into their businesses.
Mm.
And there's a lot of explanation that goes with her work. And people are usually, it's not an easy sell because people don't want to admit they have trauma. They don't want to admit they brought it into their business. So what we did was we created her sales page is now a 7-minute video
Yeah.
that tells her background, tells the experience, tells what's included, what people's experiences were. And she just had a launch and it changed the entire process of her launch because she didn't have to explain that story because she was always hesitant to explain it.
Yeah.
And now she just sends a link.
Interesting. We're coming close to the end of this conversation, which has been really fascinating. One thing I want to ask is what lessons or skills have you brought from your corporate career and, what did you leave behind and what do you have moving forward?
Well, that was a process. When I first started, it was like that was then, this is now. I don't want to be doing the same thing.
Mhm.
But when I did my first training as an entrepreneur, somebody that was on the training instant messaged me as soon as it was done. And she was like, "You're really good. How long have you been doing this?" I said, "This was my first one." And she goes, "No, this was clearly not the first time that you did that." And I was like, "Oh, well, I did it for 10 years in my job." And she was like, "Well, then you are a teacher." So I brought that. And then, like when I had a client that needed me to do PR early on, and I hired a PR coach, and the PR coach worked with me with like 2 sessions. And she said, "I can't take your money. You're my colleague."
Mhm.
And we worked together for years. Like we shared tools, we shared clients, we handed clients back and forth. And I didn't realize I had all of that PR experience from working in the law firm because it was work. It was like I just kept doing what I needed to do. I was like one of those Swiss Army knives at the law firm. They were like, "Oh, nobody else could figure it out. Let's give it to Donna." So, I didn't have like official training in anything. It
Yeah.
was just I learned it, on the ground. And when I just redesigned my business this time around, I took a look at all of my processes, how I create things. Does anything need to be updated? And I'm still using the model that I created in like 1990, build media kits for partners. And I was managing the media kits for 250 partners. So that's the model that I use when I build media kits for my clients. And I always have. I've been doing it all along, but I didn't really think about it because it's just what I've always done. And it just dawned on me that, wow, I've been doing this stuff for a very long time. And there's a lot I left behind. I don't want to work 15 hours a day. I just don't want to do it anymore. And that's kind of a requirement in the law firm. It's a
Yeah.
badge of courage.
This, well, it's been a really interesting interview. I've gleaned so many different insights and distinctions. I know a lot of the audience would be interested in visiting your website, contacting you, finding out more about you. So how can they do that?
Just Cravotta, everything is there. A Gather Your Story workbook, you can sign up and receive that, and it just tells you like how to go through what you already have to create a story that you can share with the world, and links to social. I'm on all the socials. It's all there.
And for all the audience and listeners out there, thanks for tuning in. Donna's and link will be in the links and show notes. So thanks so much, and we look forward to hearing more about you in the future.
Thank you.